Hi everyone, welcome to A Plus Calculus, and in this video we will continue our discussion of revision. We were doing revision of all the SAT math topics. In the previous videos we did circles, then we revised quadratics, every concept of quadratics that you should know, then every concept of straight lines, and today in this video we will see every concept of triangles that you should know for SAT math. So first of all, for triangles, you should be familiar with the concept of congruent triangles and similar triangles. Now, congruent literally means exact replicas or identical. Okay, so any two figures are congruent if they are identical, if they are replicas of each other. And this is the symbol of congruency, and these are five criterias that you should know in order to prove two triangles congruent. First one is SSS. It stands for side, 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 which means if all three sides of the first triangle are congruent to all three sides of the other triangle, then these two triangles will be congruent by SSS. Second criteria is SAS, which stands for side angle side. Here, this angle should be the included angle, meaning if this side is congruent to this side and if this side is congruent to this side, then the angle should be the one which is between these two sides. So this and this. Then these two triangles will be congruent. Third criteria is ASA, which stands for angle side angle. Again, here S, which stands for side, it should be an included side. Then we have AAS, which stands for angle angle side. Then we have, now in angle angle side, S is not an included side. So you just need two angles and any one side in both the triangles. Then we have RHS or HL. RHS stands for right angle hypotenuse side. HL stands for hypotenuse and leg. Now this criteria is only used in right triangles. So if in any two right triangles there is a right angle and if hypotenuse of one triangle is congruent to the other triangle and one side is congruent to the one side of other triangle, then these two triangles will be congruent. Then we have HL is basically the same thing. H stands for hypotenuse, L stands for leg. So if in two right triangles hypotenuse is congruent and one leg is congruent, then those two triangles will be congruent. Now, some students also think that ASS is also a congruency criteria, but it's not. And if you find it difficult to remember that ASS is not a congruency criteria, then just think that ASS is spelling for as, and as is a bad word. So that's why ASS is not going to be a congruency criteria. Now you can expect questions like they will give you two triangles and they will give you two conditions and they will ask you which of the following conditions would be sufficient in order to prove these two triangles congruent. Similar question you can expect on similar triangles. Now similar triangles are the triangles which similar means just dilation. That means you have a triangle and you just increase it or decrease, like increase the sides or decrease the sides, but in the same ratio. Okay, so there are four criteria to prove two triangles similar. The first one is SSS. It stands for obviously side, 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 but here it doesn't mean that all three sides should be congruent, but it means all sides should be in proportion. That means if you take the ratio of corresponding sides, so ratio of A to X, then ratio of B to Y, and ratio of C to Z, all those ratios will be equivalent. Second criteria is SAS, which stands for side angle side. Here again, it means two sides are in proportion and one included angle is congruent. then the two triangles will be similar. Then the third criteria, well, before the third criteria, you should know the fourth criteria. Fourth criteria says AAA, which stands for angle, angle, angle. Now, if three angles of one triangle are congruent to the three angles of the other triangle, then these two triangles will be similar. Okay. And instead of three angles, even if you have two angles congruent, then also those two triangles will be similar, because then if two angles are congruent, then the third one will be obviously congruent because of the angle sum theorem. Angle sum theorem is this. Now, before angle sum theorem, we'll do exterior angle theorem. Exterior angle theorem is also very important. In exterior angle theorem, see, if you have a triangle and if you extend any one side of the triangle like this, then you get this sort of an angle. I've given it a name X. Now this exterior angle X will be equal to the sum of the two interior opposite angles. Interior, that means angles which are inside the triangle, and opposite means you leave the adjacent angle which is adjacent to X, leave this, and then the two angles which are left are Y and Z. So X will be equal to sum of Y and Z. That's your exterior angle theorem. Then you have angle sum theorem, which is very simple. You should know this. The sum of all the angles of a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. Then you should know isosceles triangles. Isosceles triangles are the ones in which any two sides are congruent. And you should know one property of isosceles triangles, that if two sides are congruent, then the angles opposite to the two sides are also congruent. The converse of the statement is also true. If the two angles are congruent, then the sides opposite to the angles will be also congruent. Then we have area of triangle. In area of triangle, the formula, everybody knows the formula. It is given by half times base times height. But students think that the base always has to be this line, the bottommost line. But that's not true. Base can be any line. So if this line is the base, if this side is the base, then the height will become the perpendicular drawn from the opposite vertex. Now here, if you see this side is the base, then the height will become this side. So height will change as per the base. Depending on the base, height will change. So you should just know that height is just the perpendicular dropped. It's the altitude. It's the altitude drawn from the opposite vertex. Whatever side you're considering as your base, then your height will be the altitude to that base. Now, if you find out the area of all these three triangles, you will get same area. Then equilateral triangles are those triangles in which all sides are congruent, also all angles are congruent, and they all measure 60 degrees. And you should also know that area of equilateral triangle is √3/4 times square of the side. Now the next concept is the concept of areas of similar figures. Now see, here I've written figures and not triangles because this concept works for any similar figure. And that's why here I've drawn two trapezoids and not triangles. So if you have any two similar figures, then then this concept will follow. Ratio of area of one figure to the area of other figure will be same as ratio of the corresponding sides. Okay, so here if you see area of ABCD over area of PQRS, area of this trapezoid over area of this trapezoid is equal to, first you take the ratio of A to B, so side of this trapezoid, and then you square it. This is getting tested a lot on SAT now. Then the most important concept is of triangle proportionality theorem. This is really important. You should not skip this. You can expect minimum one question from triangle proportionality theorem. It just says that in a triangle, if you draw a line inside the triangle which is parallel to any one side, then all of these ratios will happen. So you just read these ratios and you have to remember and you have to make sense of how these ratios are coming up, because see, it will not be easy to remember to memorize all these ratios. So that's why you should understand how these ratios are coming up. So this task I'll leave up to you. You just read all these ratios and try to understand how these ratios are coming up. And finally, if in the same concept, if D becomes the midpoint of AB and E becomes the midpoint of BC, then this line segment DE will be half of AC. That's it for triangles. This covers all the concepts that you should know for triangles. There are trigonometry concepts as well, that we will do in other video. And in the next video, we will do trigonometry and special triangles. Till then, thank you for watching. If you liked it, if you found this video helpful, then don't forget to give a like and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you.